It's absolutely baffling to me that after all these years, we have never gotten a Metal Gear Solid like movie or anything like that. The video game series has gotten very popular over time, especially like during the 2000s decade, which, in my opinion, was probably the peak period for the popularity of the Metal Gear game because or the Metal Gear series because like you look at Metal Gear Solid 2, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, and Metal Gear Solid 4 Sons of the Patriot. Like, all those games were like amazing. People had nothing but good things to say about all of those games. And we did get Phantom Pain back in 2015. And I believe that was the game that caused Konami and Hideo Kojima to part ways because it was a game that had a ridiculously high budget, but it didn't sell nearly as much as Konami wanted them to, and Hideo Kojima wanted more money for another Metal Gear Solid game, which is why we probably never got Metal Gear Solid 6. But originally, we were supposed to get a Metal Gear movie like many, many years ago because I read somewhere that Hideo Kojima had basically made plans to release a Metal Gear Solid movie, and the first time that was ever like mentioned was like back in like the mid 2000s. I believe it was like '05 or '06, and nothing has really like solidified in the 2000s decade, at least not to my knowledge. I believe that when it comes down to the role of like Solid Snake, there were actually various big names who were considered to be, candidates for the role of Solid Snake back in like the mid 2000s, name like Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale. And for those who are not familiar with like superhero movies, Hugh Jackman is normally Wolverine, and Christian Bale, I believe, was Batman, and he's normally Batman anyways. And yeah, it's like like nothing really happened with the I guess with the Metal Gear Solid movie, or at least with what Hideo Kojima had planned. But I believe like during the teens decade, or at least like during the first half of the teens decade, um, more steps were taking towards, I guess, materializing a Metal Gear Solid movie and making it happen. And like at this point, like there's still like a lot of things that like we're in the dark about. We do know that's supposed to be distributed by Sony Pictures. It's supposed to be produced by Avi Arad, and for those who don't know, he's the guy who worked on movies like the Venom movie from 2018, which a lot of people love, Spider-Man 3 from '07, which people got thought was just whatever. It's not as bad as people make it out to be, but it was, I mean, looking back at it now, Spider-Man 3 wasn't bad. It just wasn't nearly as good as the first two movies in the 2000s trilogy. He worked on The Amazing Spider-Man from 2012 and The Amazing Spider-Man 2 from 2014. He's also working on the Craven the Hunter movie that's supposed to be coming out next year, along with Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse movie, which is supposed to be coming out next year as well. So so as far as Metal Gear Solid movie is concerned, I'm not exactly sure, how far in production it's in, if it is in production. But if you go to IMDb website, I mean, it's listed that it's definitely it's supposed to happen, at some point. It's supposed to be directed by yeah, I believe I said it's supposed to be directed by Jordan Vogue Roberts, and I believe it's going to be an adaptation of the original 3D Metal Gear Solid game, Tactical Espionage, which came out back in like the late '90s on the PS1. At least that's what it sounds like. It's going to be about, but but yeah, as far as Metal Gear Solid movie is concerned, I'm not exactly sure. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to turn out if it does happen, because we do know that Konami owns most of the IP for the Metal Gear Solid series, if not all of it. And even though Hideo Kojima is like the original creator of, or the original, like, the director of the Metal Gear series, like Konami has to have some type of say in this, and last time I checked, Kojima and Konami weren't necessarily on good terms because of how Metal Gear Solid 5 turned out. And and I do feel like, like this is something that I feel like if it does happen, we see a trailer and we learn more about it, it's going to be a big deal. It's going to be a massive deal because Metal Gear Solid is long overdue for a film release. And I honestly feel like a film release for Metal Gear Solid would have been better in like it would have been better in the 2000s. Like after the success of the um the Metal Gear Solid game from 1998, there should have been a film like sometime in the early to mid 2000s, because when you have that kind of momentum with a gaming franchise or a series, you got to run with it. You got to make some type of TV series or movie or animated series or what have you. And that's something we've been seeing a lot lately, like with Netflix. It seems like these older video game franchises that have been around for a long time, like Tekken and Tomb Raider and Castlevania, are finally getting, animated or live action, series on Netflix. And you can even throw Twisted Metal into the mix as well in terms of old, popular franchises that are finally getting, um like their own television series. And and honestly, I feel like a an animated series of Metal Gear Solid would probably have been a better route, because the Metal Gear Solid series, I'm not going to say it's been dead for almost a decade, but at the same time, it's you haven't really heard like anything about it. It hasn't been relevant lately. And and I don't know, I feel like on one hand, a movie would be a big deal, but at the same time, um, it's something that could potentially bomb in box office if it gets released on the big screen, because the Metal Gear Solid series hasn't really been in the limelight within the past couple of years, unless there's been like news about like a potential remake or a potential Metal Gear Solid 6 game, which I don't think there's going to be a Metal Gear Solid 6 game anytime soon. And and yeah, I do feel that, a Metal Gear Solid movie is something that sounds intriguing, especially considering on who the producer is, who the director is. Um, and as far as the plot is concerned, I mean, I'd be interested if I saw an actual trailer and I guess, like, just get an idea and a feel on what it would look like and all that stuff. I would have to like learn more details to determine whether or not this would be something that would be intriguing and whether or not it would capture the feel of a Metal Gear Solid, video game. But I would like to learn more about, this project or this film that's supposed to be coming up, um, how Solid Snake is going to be portrayed in this film, how the film is going to be executed, what does the script look like? All those things are like stuff that people would love to know more about. But as it currently stands, it's like we're still in the dark about a lot of that. And I do feel that a Metal Gear film would be a big deal, but as far as it actually taking place within the next couple of years or so, I don't think that's necessarily going to happen, mainly because, you look at the producer. He has like, other project that he's more invested in. Like we're supposed to be getting a second Venom movie next year. And honestly, I think people are more concerned with that along with the Craven the Hunter movie, especially considering how much buzz the Marvel Spider-Man 2 game has been getting as of late concerning Venom and Craven the Hunter.